Hi there. I was hoping that maybe I could give you an introduction on torch tips before we start setting things on fire. Here's one of my torch tips. It's actually pretty small. And it looks like steel, doesn't it? It's not steel. It's made out of brass, which is a pretty soft metal, and it's coated with nickel so that it kind of looks like it's super tough, but it is so not tough. So I want to remind you that to handle these quite gently, don't ever drop them, because what it'll do is it'll take this round tip and make it kind of oblong, at which point the flame will never go straight again and it can't be fixed. So hold your torch tips quite carefully when you're working with them. Another thing, this is the tip and it goes onto a handle. And if you look at the bottom of this, you'll see there are two little black lines here. Those are gaskets. They're made out of rubber. When you put these on, they're made out of soft metal, and you should just put it on and just tighten this by hand. If for some reason you are leaking, it's because you probably haven't pushed this all the way in, and these little rubber gaskets kind of rub, they're friction-like. So you have to really push it into the handle and then just tighten it by hand. So if you look at the torch tip too, you will see these delicate little holes. These are air mixing torches, so they take acetylene gas and then they run them past these holes, and the air comes, the oxygen from the air mixes with the flame and creates not just like a hot pile of orange off the end, but a very precise looking torch tip. And I've done a little drawing of it back here. So let's pretend this is the shape here, pointing down. And when you have the flame turned on, you will see this bright blue cone here, and then you will see a larger cone here. And if the air is mixed with, like the gas is down a little bit, you'll see this kind of orange fluffy stuff. But if you have the flame up a little bit so that it makes a shh, then you won't see any real orangey stuff here. That has to do with the amount of oxygen and gas balance is created when operating the torch tip. So when you have just a gentle amount of gas going through, it isn't drawing as much oxygen, and it creates this orange gassy effect, and so that one is oxygen poor, and when you tighten it up it becomes more oxygen rich, I guess. So anyways, here's my flame. When you are working, you don't want to put the torch tip like boom up against your business, and you don't even want to do it like you do in welding, where this tip is touching what you're doing, because steel is a very different beast than non-ferrous metals. And what happens is you want to raise this type of metal up to the same temperature throughout. So when we use this torch tip, here I'll show you with my straight edge, we have a tendency to want the broadest flame we can get with the maximum heat. And that placement would be, say you were doing this mentally. Get the purple pen out. Just do this mentally. You're not actually going to touch any flames, but imagine that there is a line going in this direction along that torch tip, flame, and one going in this direction. So we know this is the hottest spot, but it's in such a limited space that it dissipates too much. So what we really want is, imagine the shape of an hourglass, glass from here to here, and find that even space between here and here. And imagine this is the general area, this distance from the blue tip, that you're going to want to utilize your flame the most. That is the maximum broadest heat. Now when you're going to do something very tiny that's small, like chain, you'll get closer to that tip because you don't want a broadcast of heat. But for most of your stuff, most of your soldering needs, this is where you'll stay. Okay? Hi, so I'm going to show you how to light a torch. Now in the school space, you are going to, before you ever light a torch, you are going to find out if the tank is on. You will never touch the tank. That is our responsibility because our tanks there are very big and very dangerous. My home's kind of tiny, so I touch the tank, and I can talk to you at another time about the process of starting a tank on your own at home, but we'll have that discussion quite a bit later, okay? For now, first thing I'm gonna do is turn on my ventilation or check to see if my ventilation is on. Right now I can't hear it, but I could put a piece of paper up against it to see if it sticks, and it won't stick because it's not on because the switch is over here. Here we go. Now my vent is on. So when I light my torch, I only want to turn this knob on somewhere less than 1/4 of a turn. So what I will do, I will turn it on facing upward, kind of towards my fan, just a little bit. So that is like, that's not even 1/4, that's like 1/8 of a turn. Just a little one, barely can hear it. There we go. So I use my striker and I aim it down like I showed you in the annealing demo. So you can see now the blue tip, and you can see that if I turn my tip up, I get more dark blue in the big blues on here. I'll put it against the wall. But if I turn it down, sometimes you'll see this little, I'm not getting too much yellow. I guess my tip is very clean. Yeah, there's sometimes a fluffy zone of orange. Let me see if I can't make it happen. Not this one. I guess the balance is good. Anyways, torch tip and how to turn it on. Always try to capture the gas in the top of your striker and then light it. Never do it with a lighter because a lighter in your hand is like a handful of fluid, lighter fluid, and it could blow up the whole thing in your hand. And you don't use matches. This is just a basic welding rule. This is the safest thing to light any torch with, so please get one, get it fresh, and use it all the time. Okay, thanks. A little something that I want to point out is this little pot here. This is called a pickle pot. Now at school, we have a pickle pot that has sparix in it, and sparix is a pretty dangerous chemical, so we keep it under a hood. I use very non-toxic Citra pickle, or I use a mixture of vinegar and baking soda, and that works great at home. If you can go to a thrift store, mine was $3 here, you get yourself a little one of these miniature crock pot or slow cookers or potpourri cookers, and they work pretty well. These are actually designed to be a little bit too hot for your pickles, so you might have to plug it in and unplug it periodically. I've created a rheostat here so that I can keep it on very low, and then I don't have to keep replugging it in and not plugging it in. And I can talk to you how to make one of these. That is the pickle. Now, whenever I put something in, I only use copper tongs. I can make some copper tongs, or I've used chopsticks for years, wooden chopsticks. And when something is done pickling, I then put it in a bucket of water, which is out of your view here, but it's over there, and it's going to rinse it off for me. Put the roots off in the tongs and put them back over here. If you're going to find yourself doing this kind of thing at home, talk to me and I can talk with you about home setup pickle options. Okay? Thanks.